Hey, what's up, Mafias? Welcome back to The Commute, and in this video we will be talking about JVM overload annotation. This will be a very basic introduction into default parameters with Java and Kotlin, and this will give you a good overview about interoperability with Java. So let's get started. Here is particular definition around JVM overloads annotation. The JVM overloads annotation tells the Kotlin compiler to automatically generate overloaded versions of a function or constructor for each possible combination of parameters with default values, starting from the latest parameters and moving left. This allows Java callers to use these overloads as if they were handwritten, since Java does not support default parameters. Okay, so what does this practically means? It just means that the Java does not support default parameters, but Kotlin does. And when we try to actually call a constructor or make a function, there are default parameters attached to it, and Java does not support them. So it just gives us error if we do not pass anything to that function. But in Kotlin, that does not happen because it supports the default parameters. So let's try to understand this with the help of code, and that will be much more clear. Now this is a base IT file written in .kd. Now let me quickly zoom in to this file and let me quickly close this. Okay, this is a very base function, base it, and we have a greet function right here, name string with a default parameter, and it has given the string default string as guest, the greeting type of string with the default string as hello, and it just prints hello guest if we just press on greet. So let's try to actually print it right here, where base it is equal to base it. Okay, we initialize the function and say greet. As you can see, it does not give us any error. We can directly call this inside of Kotlin. This is a KT file, so we can directly call it in Kotlin, and then we can even pass some values into the arguments of this thing. Let's say my name is Hitesh and I just want a greeting. This is pretty much it, and this is how Kotlin works. Even if we do not give any values, the default parameter works and it does not give us any errors. As you can see, this works in Kotlin. But in case of Java, let's try to look at it. Now this is a very basic Java file. We have class scratch, static void main, string args. Let's try to actually get the base it here, where base it, the base it file is here, the base it initialization. Okay, I just wrote it in Kotlin. I need to write it in Java. Base it is equal to new base it. Pretty much it. Let's try to call the base it dot greet, and as you can see, it will start to give us errors. Now what is happening here? It expects some values from it, right? Expected 2 arguments but found 0. So in Java you cannot do so because there are no default parameters in Java. Now how can we avoid this? We want to use the default parameters in this particular function. So to avoid this, we have to just annotate it with JVM overloads, and this particular thing will just work right here in Java. That's basically it. That's what basically JVM overload does. It overloads everything around default parameters. It can be done in classes, it can be done in functions. So this is pretty much it, and that's how JVM overload works. Hopefully give you a very basic understanding of JVM overloads. Let's try to actually see why do we even use JVM overload. First thing is that Java interoperability. Java doesn't support default parameter values. JVM overloads makes Kotlin function with default accessible for Java without requiring all arguments. Clean Java API reduces the boilerplate code and manual overload creation, making APIs easier to use and maintain. Consistency ensures both Kotlin and Java callers have a similar experience when calling functions with default parameters. So these were some of the things of why we use JVM overloads, and I think so by the definition itself it is pretty much clear of why we are using it, and you've already seen the example and hopefully give you a pretty good idea of why we use JVM overloads. Hopefully this makes JVM overloads pretty much clear to you, and if it did, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.